Hello everyone, I'm Elizabeth Fork and I would like to present to you mobile technology and how pretty much cell phones influenced our society. Let me present you with a couple of questions for you to think about. How did mobile technology present itself? Where did it come from? How did it come into play? Did it change how we practice our everyday tasks? Are we doing something different? Are we behaving in a different way than before? How did it influence us? First, I want to talk about where mobile phones came from. The first phone that we've seen in its first existence is the SCR-194. It was basically a walkie-talkie for the military. This helped military in the war stay connected as much as they could. As time went by, emergency vehicles such as an ambulance or police or even taxis use this mobile technology. And now today, we use it for everything. We are so connected now than we were before. Since we are so connected, our change in behavior has changed. Our social practices are changing this technology, which, since we're on the go society, our needs for a device that's faster will benefit us because then we can stay more connected than we were before in previous years. Each generation, such as X through Z, desires more information at a faster rate. And since we are on the go society, phone technology is changing as well. We want to create a faster internet, faster processors on these phones, and so much more. But this technology is also shaping our social practices as well, such as our connectivity with one another. It's also reshaping our space and boundaries, such as speaking versus texting. It's becoming a social norm to be out in public and texting in a public place, or even with a group of friends sitting on the couch hanging out. It seems that phone is taking the upper hand to our society. In my field of study, which is graphic design, this piece of technology has influenced me greatly. It has influenced me to stay connected with a lot of my clients or just the world in general. I can present my portfolio and be on my phone at any time to make sure and see who has liked or even wants to be in contact with me. There are positive and negative aspects. Negative would be less creativity because I've seen so much work from all kinds of people that I feel that my creativity is lessened. Technological determinism, I feel, affects graphic design negatively and positively because cell phones are determining our culture and the way we present ourselves. What's the issue? What is this issue at hand with cell phones? This new technology is changing the way we communicate, and it's affecting our social relationships. This issue is how we email, social networking sites, and text messaging to stay connected or communicate with friends and family. This is a whole different way to communicate, but we're losing that face-to-face interaction, which is sometimes could put a strain on relationships in general. It's destroying that meaningfulness of interaction with one another and disconnecting us from the world, which could cause isolation. Without communication we need that face-to-face interaction, we're becoming socially inept in different ways. Now, who is the targeted population of this mobile technology? Would have to say Generation Z. These are the young children and teens who literally are growing up with this technology. There's about over 23 million of this Generation Z, which are the teens of today, that are being impacted. The importance of them is that they are this new generation to set forth new ideas for our future and change the culture and society. It's growing and growing and every day. To relate to this topic, I would have to say social construction of technology and technological determinism. I think these are the main topics that relate to mobile technology, because social construction of technology, we are the ones who give meaning to this technology and we decide on its relevance. Cell phones are exactly that. We decide on what the look is and we decide the meaning of it is for us. But it also has technological determinism, which technological forces determine social and cultural change. So, what I have talked about so far, it seems that cell phones are changing how our culture is and how our society goes about their day. Mobile technology is impacting this targeted population, Generation Z. They use most of their interactions through their cell phones. They're growing up with this technology and it's changing how they connect with friends and family, such as their conversations have changed. The previous generations, such as Generation Y, were not as connected as this new generation. According to the article, How Generation Z Are Being Shaped by Technology, states, unlike previous generations where much of the engagement with the world was one passive observance, these days, teenagers take for granted the ability to interact and shape the world while they are observing it. Another quote by Erickson: "First, unconscious participants in an era when everyone has access to everything, everywhere, at any time. This generation has connection anywhere, at any time than before. Technology is connected on meeting new people, expressing ideas, and defining identities now. We do have a social identity. We're becoming so dependent on our phones, the conversations have changed, as you can see here. Will it change in the future? Or will it stay the same? Future technology changes will depend on how, the phone looks or the way we use it and how it's presented to the world. There will be a rise to face-to-face conversation, but through a different way through this technology, such as Skype or FaceTime, because we'll have maybe faster internet connection and we will be able to talk anywhere, anytime than before. We will be more dependent on the cell phone. Mobile technology will, in a sense, become more of our security blanket in a way. Some things to look for in the future. What I recommend to address this issue that we have, losing this face-to-face communication, losing this social interaction with people, I recommend we promote a policy for parental control of cell phones. Each cell phone provider will have the same policy on each cell phone plan. That way parents will know the exact plan and the policy, and it's not going to be different on every other cell phone. We can educate parents in the benefits of the cell phone limitation among children instead of just letting them have it and do their own thing. We could also regulate the use of mobile devices in school so that way children are not so distracted during their learning experience. We could also reinforce face-to-face communication, just educate people about what it means to have that face-to-face communication. Current technology that we utilize addressing the issue today, new cell phones could help update old cell phones by utilizing location services between cell phones. Mobile phones could be utilized in different ways to resolve this issue. Staying connected all the time could help the relationship stay where it needs to be. We can communicate faster and more than ever before through this technology, such as apps. Now, our plan of action. How are we going to implement this plan of action? Parents can utilize settings that control how their children use the phone, mainly for calling purposes, and it'll be all the same restrictions you can choose from. As I said, cell phone providers can have the same restrictions, same policy, that way there's no confusion. We could also help educate the parents on the benefits of parental settings for their children, such as Increased usage means inactivity. Encourage social activities, screen rules, and establish the cell phone as an intrinsic motivation than a necessity. Priorities before a cell phone. If you get your chores done, you can go on your cell phone. If we regulate mobile phones within a school setting, younger generations will be able to focus on school and learn how to communicate more effectively. They will also be able to keep their personal relationships intact and make new friends face-to-face instead of relying on mobile phones to hide behind. We could also reinforce face-to-face communication by helping parents with different disciplinary actions or different ways to help their kids have more face-to-face communication, such as parent becoming a role model. If us as parents become those role models, then our kids could be not so dependent on the phones. If we are dependent on our phones, then we're giving them our role model to them that, it's okay to be on our phone all day. When we can just stay off our phones for most of the day, we are showing that our kids that we are not so dependent on our phones and that we can communicate effectively without that technology. Are there benefits? There should be benefits. Benefits of the restrictions on the phones help the teens be less dependent on their phone. Benefits in educating parents on how to limit their children's phone usage will help show their children a positive alternative to having positive restrictions rather than taking the phone away completely. Because if we take this phone away completely from these children, then they are going to rebel and they're going to want the cell phone a lot more. And it could be a calmer and organized approach for the parents. Benefits of taking mobile devices away in school setting will be helping children create a better social relationships and become less distracted on what they are learning in school. Now with this plan of action, the benefits of the cell phone, we could better our way of communication with the cell phone and positive ways to steer away from the cell phone, maybe just for an hour a day or maybe even for a couple of hours a day, to not just rely on the cell phone. Then it could help us with our communication skills and it could help us gain back those relationships that we had lost with our phones. With these benefits and this plan of action, could help this generation who is targeted the most to help them still have those communication skills and those relationships that they form. They won't lose that face-to-face communication. Now, we shall see what the future holds.